Now, with capitalism, all of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly, any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number, or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know,
It's
Zach.
a tough one, I
It's
know,
really hard.
and maybe
It's.
comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. I am your host, Zach, and joining me, as per usual, on Tuesday nights is Dan Platt of the Albany Greens, excuse me, and candidate for the Library Board of Trustees in Albany as well. How are you doing tonight, Dan?
I'm good. 1 week and counting on in this tight, super exciting race that almost maybe 50 people pay attention to. We have a school budget vote that's separate from any general election. It's in the spring. It's May 21st usually, and so it usually has at most 3,000 people voting in it. So whether it's school board or library board, it's not a very large amount of big population you have to sway. My friend, who's on the school board, is currently running unopposed. He only ran again to prevent any, right winger from like stepping in because I don't know. It's a very small probability of that, but I don't know. He doesn't hate being on the board yet, though there are some bumps along the
Yeah.
way. It's uncanny and frightening how sometimes the most nice community centric people, as soon as they become the chair of a board, can suddenly like a switch is pulled and there's suddenly a complete ass. And
That's
become
too
a
bad.
control freak of sorts. Because like if they're older, they might have a mindset of, well, now I have to manage this, you know, diverse set of people, and I can understand that in some sense, the need to let go when you are in charge, but you're still just coordinating a diverse group of people, not leading them, because it's not the chair is not always maybe a leader. They just technically have more responsibility in some ways or more power. Okay,
Right.
keeping that vague for a reason. To protect the innocent. But otherwise, I suggested to you that we simply watch. Local politics is so freaking exciting, right? But I say with sarcasm. But there's two reasons to watch local, forums like this. The library could be a site of socialist organizing. What
Absolutely.
kind of um, possibilities exist? And also looking at sort of this local nonpartisan forum can also be like we can tease out the sort of tropes of like there's three main types of community actors that maybe jockey for positions like these. And it can also be instructive as to just how low the barriers can be to get involved and actually start governing. And even though it's kind of scary or you don't think you have time for it, trust me, the people doing it are not putting 20-hour weeks in, or 40-hour weeks. Certain chairs, I think, feel like it's their full-time job. But that's kind of what I'm getting at. That's like, well, I'm putting a full 40 hours a week and you're only like, how dare you think we're equals? The kind of situation. So
Sure.
you can get it going.
Yep, yeah. I'll pull it up right now.
It's about an hour. So we've got 2 hours to go through it. So I'm not kidding that there's sort of 3 different types of candidates that kind of put in these. There's 12 of us in all, and you can judge like whether or not I'm superior or not to them, or how in the ways that I'm inferior. Because in person, the last 20 minutes or so, I was getting some serious imposter syndrome. Like, what the fuck am I doing? It's like you have these people that I'm kind of like, even if I were to win, like I'd have to work with some of them. I'd have to put aside any bias I have against certain like nonprofit types or this kind of type, or the people who don't seem to have a clear motive. But I think because library trustee is so low stakes, and sometimes you have people who are in leadership positions at the library, and they're afraid that no one's going to step up. And that's a fear I have, like, say, in political organizations all over the place. Green Party, maybe even Libertarian Party. That was the other thing I was looking at, like sharing. Maybe we can do it next week. But I wanted to check in on how the Libertarian Party is doing, because I haven't seen any mainstream news relating to them.
No.
So I'm like, what's going on with them? There's something about Trump speaking at their convention. I think this is Trump trying to undercut their own politics. The fact that they're an independent party, but like he wants them to vote for him. I'm not sure why they would accept him as a speaker, but that's something to discuss maybe next week. So skip ahead the first few minutes. Well, the director does her a report, and actually it's not such a bad thing to include that. But skip a minute or so in.
Sure. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, she's gonna explain the rules. We don't really need that. Okay.
To come answer that question is Paige Allen.
Okay. Sorry. The
Great.
question, the first question was basically, how do you envision doing the duties of being a board member?
Okay.
Essentially.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Allen, and I live in the Center Square neighborhood, and I work for the Office of Mental Health with a research staff of about 90. I will carry out the duty of care using my training as a longtime public administrator and steward of research budgets. I have specific training in ethics and am entrusted in overseeing millions of dollars, managing confidential personnel issues, and protected health information. My judgment is my job. I will be extremely diligent with the library's resources. I will also encourage the continued use of data in evaluating the library's progress towards its strategic vision goals and to gauge how the community views the library's progress. Context is crucial for good judgment, and in that spirit, I would engage with other community stakeholders like the public school system, local nonprofits, neighborhood associations, and other groups who are the lifeblood of Albany. By listening to a diverse group of voices, I can anticipate trends and be active in engaging the library in preparing to best use resources for community benefit. I will trust my training and keep an open mind to understand the ever-changing context of our Albany community. The library is a precious institution, and its custodians should appreciate the gravity of our role in protecting this public resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for opening up this forum, and thank you to all of the additional members of the nominating committee and library staff for making this candidate forum possible today.
You only get 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's gotta be
like I'm a little face palmy with like, don't spend your time thanking people. It's just not needed. But anyway, I'm just gonna snipe.
My name is Tia Anderson, and I am a lifelong resident of the Capital Region. I grew up right down the road in Schenectady, and I currently live in Pine Hills with my fiance. I am so excited to be here in a room full of like-minded people who just want to support our libraries. Duty of care is a crucial component of being a trustee because it comes with the obligation of handling the library's resources in good faith and with sound judgment. I have always been a very detail-oriented person. I approach every decision with careful consideration and integrity. While this has led me to rumination at times, more often than not, it leaves me feeling confident in my decisions and prepared for a variety of outcomes. If elected trustee, I will always act in the best interest of the library and the patrons that we serve. My goal is simple. I want to give back and I want to do good and put good into the world. Duty of care also involves a fair bit of flexibility. Our communities are ever changing, and it is a duty to be active in the community and informed on the needs of our neighbors and informed on the mission of the library and the ongoing initiatives that the library has. I will be a welcoming face and a staunch advocate for not only the library, but also Albany residents. I may not come with previous board experience, but I do come with a unique perspective, thank you, and a dedication, commitment, and passion for what is best for our libraries. Thank you so much.
Zach,
Good evening, everyone.
do you think she said anything there?
I don't think anyone said anything so far. It sounds a lot just like a, standard job interview responses.
That goes for Paige too.
Yeah.
Because I think I was told offhand by my friends that Paige, being in Center Square, this is the densest and technically most progressive part of town. Because the council member over that neighborhood is like the sole DSA council person.
Sure.
And I think Paige might be in her orbit.
Yeah.
Need confirmation, but you couldn't see any of that from that.
Yeah. It just seems like,
But,
happy to be here. I'm going to do great for the library. That's it.
She manages millions of dollars,
Yeah.
Well, anyway, indirectly.
My name is Kirsten Bershinsky. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. I plan to carry out the duty of care with 3 very simple things: my time, my attention, and my curiosity. We live in a world where we are always in a hurry. We're always skimming. We're always looking forward to what's coming up next. But as a trustee, I commit to all of you that I will make every board meeting, as long as it is physically possible to do so, and I will come prepared and ready to participate, and with my phone on silent in my bag. I've had the pleasure of working with many board members throughout my career in the nonprofit world, and what I've realized is that the board members that attend meetings and are fully present at that meeting and participate are the board members that also provide the most support, that best understand the challenges
She
and
was
the
on the
issues
board
of the organization.
the Library Foundation. They do fundraising and such, and so she was appointed to fill in a vacancy.
Oh, I see.
So she's currently a trustee
All right.
who's running.
Most experienced so far.
Right.
Organization, but also best understand their strengths. Additionally, I commit that I will do my best to attend library programs, interact with the staff and the public that are in attendance, and be a physical and mental part of what is taking place in our libraries and, by extension, in our communities. Included with the time, attention, and curiosity that I feel encompasses my obligation of duty of care is a willingness to listen, ask questions, and when presented with new information, a willingness to change my mind when it is in the best interest of the library moving forward. I come into this role with 20 years of career experience, but I'm learning quickly, even in the interim role that I'm currently serving in with the library, that I have a lot that I don't know. So questions that I didn't even know should be asked, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to change my mind when needed, and willing to challenge the status quo if it means improving library access for our community. Thank you.
All right. So first of all, I definitely want to say thank you to the Albany Public Library, the staff, everyone who's here tonight, everyone who tunes in, everyone who cares enough to run for these seats. It's a crowded field, but that's incredible to me because so many people care about this. So many people want the library to be better, and all we do is help people. So I appreciate everybody for being here, not for nothing. For me, when it comes to duty of care, the question becomes why? Like, how will you know that we'll care about it? I'm born and raised in Albany, New York. My father passed away when I was 3 and my mother's blind. For me, that meant that I was a part of every program, every community resource, everything that gave away a free t-shirt or a lunch, I was there. I've spent more hours in this building and all the other branches across the city than I can possibly count. And for that reason, it's important to me that I'm a part of the future and what that looks like. I care because I was a part of it, and I have a daughter. The camera people won't be able to see her, but I have a daughter over there who's 1 year old. Everything that I do is about changing this city and increasing everything we can possibly do for our kids. I have a vested interest. I'm the executive director of the Red Bookshelf. I'm president of True Heart Inc., which is a nonprofit. We do lots of kids stuff. I'm vice president of Albany Fund for Education, where we support our teachers. I'm on the board of the Lincoln Park Alliance. I'm on the board of A Village, which does community service. I'm on the board of Trinity Alliance, which is in downtown Albany, also provides for people. When you care about something, you take care of what you love. I love this city. I love the children. I love everybody in it. And the more we can coordinate services, take care of the people who come here, take care of the people who work here, I want to be a part of that, and I'll do everything I can. I honestly believe that what you do defines you. And I did see the 30-second time thing, so I appreciate you. I honestly believe that what you do defines you. So when I say that I'm Batman and I'm dedicated to my city, that's exactly what I mean. So thank everyone for listening. Thank everyone for caring. And my time is up.
Definitely the best one so far. Actually had something to say, actually had a story to relate, and
by all means,
brought some heart to it. So yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, talking about his story. Yeah.
His story, yeah.
And so he falls into that. I of course, I'm not doing a poli-sci paper on this. Maybe of course, what kind of research would I do? But my observation he's not the only kind of candidate like this where he almost collects board memberships.
That was the one thing I'd be like, oh, so you're on like every board in the city.
Yeah, but this is his job, right? It's not his free time. Like
yeah.
he's going from meeting to meeting
that's
or
still
whatever.
A lot.
It is still 6, right? I keep thinking it was 4, but
yeah.
it's 6. Now keep in mind, Red Bookshelf is basically like a string of little free libraries, but it's also collecting children's books and doing like distribution events.
That's cool.
So that's not like each of these things is basically one project that's basically you can accomplish like with one day of each week, coordinating it, sort of. I don't know how it really does it. He does have other people doing it with him.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's this idea that comes to mind when I notice the patterns of people running for office, which people and who run things in the civil society, the nonprofit sector. And it seems like if there's ever and by the way, I'm saying this as like this, isn't it sad that if there's ever going to be any coordination between the 50 different community service orgs plus the actual government service orgs and beyond, that it basically needs to be the same 30 to 50 people on all the boards. And they're all friends and they all have each other's numbers and they're all able to coordinate services because they know and trust each other. Because if you have all these different groups of people who don't socialize or don't know each other or don't collaborate regularly, there just isn't that relationship there. It's almost an argument for such hierarchies where, it shouldn't be that way. There needs to be an alternative way of coordinating, particularly with an actual democratic assembly of some kind, instead of there's just all these boards and they're all separate.
Yeah.
And there's no
each in their own silo.
Right. Sort of similar, but also sort of completely in the other direction of radical revolutionary politics. I was just reading in the Socialist Party magazine for this month. The one article in there that I found interesting was talking about the effort in New Hampshire to create what is called an assembly of worker organizations. And these are all the different sectarian parties and groups, but it's also not specific to political parties, but they call them non-party organizations, like a group that advocates for sex workers. You have just labor groups, small unions, IWW, but includes SP, DSA, and two others, and it's basically like 10 strong, and they've been building relationships and trust with these non-parties who are usually maybe not want to act politically, but in making this assembly, they have a mass party kind of group to do dual power building. Like, it starts with something simple and cheap, like creating a landlord database for judging landlords and picking out the slumlords. Don't rent from these people. And then acknowledges, the writer, that it's like they're not doing true like services on the same part of municipal government, but they want to get to that point because that's what it takes if you're building revolution.
Right.
You need something that can do the same thing, because the question, and it's why the SP kind of will sometimes collaborate with Greens, but not always, depending on who's heading it, the effort, is that, they don't see getting elected to the office of the Liberal Republic to be change. That, look, we don't want to take power within the liberal government. We want to overturn it and have a workers' government.
Right. Totally remake government.
It's a big haul. Right?
Absolutely, it is.
And I'd like to hope. I don't know. I can assume that the Greens in New Hampshire may be too liberal to work with such a revolutionary program. But we'll see how long that lasts. I'm going to keep an eye out for the New Hampshire Congress of Workers orgs, because it's the kind of thing that isn't tried enough in America. I mean, you had something like that with the Marxist Project, but that only lasted 2 years. Maybe this will last the same amount of time, or maybe it'll pull through and actually start doing some hard projects. So yeah. So anyway, so that's my thought on Paul, who does, in fact, on Facebook go by Batman, or his Facebook name was Bob Kane, Greater Batman.
Okay.
So you allude to it, and his Facebook picture is usually him wearing a Batman mask. So I don't see him in person enough. This is one of the first times I really got a good look at him, especially without the sunglasses, because otherwise he's wearing sunglasses. He was wearing them inside.
I get the Batman, fighting for justice sort of thing, but Batman's also just a cop, so it doesn't really sway me in any way to associate yourself with Batman. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, he's a hero. He's for the people.
No, I get the popular opinion of him, but it's, he's also a billionaire who goes around and beats up the lumpen proletariat rather than donate to causes to fix their plight. But
well, the movies aren't good at this, but the older he gets, the more he does both, or he actually does more in one than the other. And I don't know, it's just the stories where he actually does reform his rogues gallery, because he's all about giving them the infinite amount of chances until they realize that it's this whole killing everybody thing isn't working. It's not making me happy. Kind of thing.
But anyway,
where
just the smallest.
Only the Joker is unreformable. Everybody else can kind of pull through. Something like that. Or it depends on, it depends on the tone of the Justice League cartoon. There's one where it's a reformed Riddler, and he's just a investigation consultant. He helps the Justice League solve these riddles, because it's he just wants to play games,
Right.
Doesn't matter for who, or he gets paid. But it's legit work, Anyway.
Hey everyone, so good to be here with you all and all the other amazing candidates. I look forward to getting to know all of you a bit more. For me, duty of care really boils down to protecting this critical institution, and by extension, the folks who really make it run, whether that's staff or community members, and then the community that really relies on it. So one obvious way that I think I would carry out that duty of care is just by being an active, engaged board member, right? Showing up to the meetings, as was mentioned earlier, but also being deeply prepared for those meetings, getting training where needed if I have a certain knowledge or skill gap that I've identified, and being a good financial steward, right? So making sure that we're investing money of the library in a way that's going to maintain its long-term health and viability. I'm confident I can do this. I've been president of a local union. I'm currently vice president of a professional association, been on other boards. So that part I think is definitely something that I'll be able to carry out. But the duty of care, I think, goes beyond this as well. And it's really about holding up the library as a beacon of...
specific about these things.
What's that?
I just wish that him and some of the other candidates who kind of talk about themselves would be more specific.
Right.
Like, well, which do you? What professional work? Like, what do you do? You haven't said what you do. And the others do, and have, but I don't think Zach said what he does.
No, I don't think he did.
I'm just pointing it out for the sake of what something like this. Don't want to get too bored.
So far, another just kind
or
of...
take a shot, you know.
So far, another kind of just standard, I'm going to try real hard sort of answer.
Yep.
Education as a beacon of free speech, as a beacon of free expression. And I think in our current times...
And people, like, owning up to their capacities.
Yeah. That's true. Oh, I think Dan has frozen. Shoot. Doesn't usually happen with the Google Meet calls. Dang. That sucks. Well, we will continue on, and Dan will pop back in when he is able.
Especially with lots of attacks that come at educators and librarians, that means really investing your time in making sure that the library is protected against some of those attacks, right? So pushing back against things like book bans, really investing in the folks who make the library run.
So, I mean, this is good. He's at least saying specific things that he wants to do other than show up and try real hard. So fighting back against book bans, that's a noble cause. That's definitely an issue that affects a lot of libraries right now. So yeah, good. Let's see what else he says.
And defending and investing, especially in the space where people can get what they need as community members, get the resources they need to thrive, and that they're available to all people. So I've been an organizer and an educator for my entire adult life, and I think speaking out for fairness, speaking out for dignity, whether in the workplace or the community, is really part of who I am, and I think that's central to how I would approach the duty of care.
Hey everybody, how you doing? So my name's Brett, as you can see up here. I live on Western Ave, and I'm an attorney. So for me, the duty...
Uh-oh, that's strike number 2. Bow tie, attorney. Are we looking at a right-wing libertarian? Oh, and the funky glasses too. Oh boy. I'm gonna hold on for this one.
Duty of care has kind of a legal meaning, and I think about it in that regard. So it really requires a holistic approach to being a board member. Sorry, I move around a lot, so if you're not getting me, let me know. Preparation is key. Others said this already. So coming to the board knowing the bylaws, knowing what the committees do, reading the minutes, knowing what the board is going to be doing at that meeting, coming prepared, right? Knowing the pass outs, regular attendance was mentioned already. That's the key. The best stability is availability. So if I'm not here, I can't be a very good trustee, can I? Ensuring the library's resources are not misused or wasted. That requires active oversight, right? The job of the board is not administration, it's governance.
Misused or wasted? What does that mean? That's vaguely threatening.
So that entails, for me, listening. I'm an attorney. I'm not a library professional. I don't know how to run a library, so I trust those individuals who do. So it's a matter of listening to those individuals, learning, relying on that expert staff, and then making reasoned, deliberate decisions with the other trustees. So that's what I think of when I think of duty of care, is that aspect. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Ooh, do not have a good feeling about that last guy. I gotta tell you. Oh man, that's no good at all. It's gonna be a watchdog for the budget and take meticulous care of reading the minutes and doesn't know how to run a library. Why is he on the board then? Or why does he want to be a board member? And he's, that lawyer part of it. He didn't say what kind of law he practices either. Not a great feeling about that one.
So my primary strategy will be to always uphold library values. Looking at the library values.
Oh, I've met a lot of women like this over the course of my adult life. Show up to a whole lot of group meetings, like any sort of group that has a cause, and very, very well intentioned, often very, I'm not saying that they're, I'm not saying anything bad about that, but like, they like to go be in a bunch of meetings and have other people that are like-minded that they can commiserate with about struggles and just find camaraderie, and that's like their main cause. Yeah, I can see this already. Very interesting.
Values, particularly of collaboration, of diversity, and service. I would strive to always incorporate the viewpoints, the concerns.
I guarantee you she has placards pre-made for every sort of cause that she believes in, just waiting in her closet for people to get together to go to a protest outside the post office or at an overpass or something like that. I'm guessing she's the type of person who just shows up to every single protest, and I don't want to get too down on her or make too much fun of her, because I do like these types of people usually.
The interests of residents from all neighborhoods. And I would do this by reaching out, whether by phone, email, even walking in different neighborhoods, visiting organizations in different neighborhoods, engaging folks in conversations, preparing thoughtful questions, listening to people's thoughts, and thereby convey to people that their interests and concerns matter to the library. And of course, I would listen carefully to my fellow board members so that we could pool our respective expertise. Of course, I would listen to the library executive director, Andrea Nicolai, and any staff that she refers us to. And in terms of long-term sustainability, I believe that collaborating and partnering with nonprofits, with for-profit businesses, with professionals, with...
Nope. You're starting to lose me, Marcia. No public-private partnerships. That works out really well for the private side of that equation. Not so much for the public side. That's how it tends to go. It tends to mean tax breaks for favored businesses. It tends to mean favored treatment for those same businesses. Handouts. Oh, sounds like maybe Dan is back.
Sounds like.
There you are. All right. So we're looking at Marcia Lazarus now.
Now in her case, okay, because you don't know her, but I've dealt with her a few times.
Dealt with her, you say?
Well, wrong phrasing. I've associated.
Sure.
She's been part of the Sanctuary for Independent Media. So I encountered her a few times as the radio person.
I made some
And
predictions about her as we were going. I've met a lot of women who are like this. I'm guessing she's the kind who shows up to every protest, is in every group, joins every group that she can find, always wants to talk a lot about emotions and you know.
You some kind of feminist hater or something?
No, not at all. No, there's nothing wrong with these types of people at all. Like that's great.
Yes.
I love that their hobby is actually doing something great. But like, you know,
doing community projects
and
being involved. So
right.
yes,
Although
being that retiree, you know, gives
right.
her affords
Yeah.
her a lot of privilege in being able to do all of this.
Yeah.
And take it from the young men. And I want to let you know that as far as gender parity goes, the board, 2 of the 3 seats should be men, at least, or even 3. All 3 could be men because there's already a majority of women on the trustee board. It was like, did I do exact count? It was basically like 7 women to 4 men. So all 3 men, all 3 could be men, and that would mean gender parity.
Yeah. Which is
so
definitely a good thing. You want to have more men interested in these sorts of issues that face the library. That's good.
Otherwise, you just have to assume, well, women care more, so they should be on all these community boards.
I mean,
but that wasn't the case, of course, before Women's Lib.
As someone who works in education, who almost all of my coworkers are women, I see how little care my industry or my profession gets, and how little respect it gets by the wider public. And I think that is partially because it is a female-dominated profession. And so...
fair enough.
Yeah, in that way.
And when she says working with private businesses...
Oh, yeah.
It's not really the public-private partnership like on a city level.
That's good.
She's talking more about, like, for example, if the community radio station was getting its underwriting from small business owners, this would be better than if we went to the big hospitals and the banks for our underwriting. You know, better to have 30 smaller businesses helping us out or partnering for some program. Let's say they cater some kind of book reading event, or book sale. Or it's my friend's book selling business, and he donates a pallet full of $1 books for a library book sale. This is something he actually wants to do, and kind of sees that maybe happening with certain one of the candidates, I think, would do something like that, or mentions it. Better. Actually, one of the candidates mentions it, so it would be something more like that.
That's good.
Not. There's no tax breaks or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't mean getting Pepsi banners, but at the library.
The Albany Library is sponsored by Pepsi.
Yeah, sponsored by Pepsi. Hey, the county did it with the arena.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's not that far off.
Yeah.
If I thought. All right, let's let her continue on.
Residents with specific experience and skills is a win-win strategy. And both extends library resources and enables the library to effectively serve all sectors of our city.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Marlowe. I have been a resident of the city of Albany for 20 years, and I am, for the moment, a professor of English at the College of St. Rose. So as a mother and a teacher, I exercise duty of care.
A groan of sympathy?
Yes, the College of St. Rose is closing.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
So she's, in fact, out of a job.
Yeah, okay.
It's a private college, but it's a very old, teaching college for women.
Yeah.
When teaching was the only thing women could get degrees in. But it was St. Rose, you can maybe tell it's a Catholic institution.
Yeah, that's what I guessed,
But its board over the last 20 years was just converted into a bunch of real estate assholes, and they ran the college into the ground in literal ways, like a mix of austerity policy and cutting the most successful and necessary programs. It's a teaching college, and they were cutting teaching tracks, education tracks, and the nursing track. You know, the very sectors that were growing,
What the
they cut those sectors. Now we have a very good music program, and they had like certain other programs, but they were basically just like they didn't care like who went, just like could you go into enough debt to pay for a degree here? Okay. So you basically had a lot of people who could pay the first semester, run out of cash, or drop out, and no one would complete a degree, which means you're not really making long-term cash flow.
Right.
So they just made every wrong choice. Fought the unionized professors at every step of the way, and that's just some background for
Sure. Before we get more into her spiel, while you were away, we looked at the lawyer candidates. I can't remember what his name was.
It was two of them.
It was the guy with the bow tie and the funky glasses.
That's the Ash.
I'm real interested in knowing more about this guy because I'm getting a vibe.
Well, he has the ultimate hipster vibe. He's the Ash dad.
Okay.
I mentioned, you know, the art school kind of kids in the art school, and he's involved.
I was getting some right-wing libertarian vibes from him.
Oh, because of the bow tie?
The bow tie, and also, I mean, being a lawyer, he didn't mention what kind of law he practiced.
Well, look, this city does not have a lot of libertarians, and it would be surprising when they actually show up. This guy is not one of them.
Okay, that's refreshing.
He's more of your standard progressive hipster guy.
Okay.
As all these people technically are, including myself, maybe. Except I'm not a hipster. I haven't gentrified anything. I've just been staying put in the hood. So.
On a daily basis, all of the time, doing my due diligence to ensure that my family, my students, my colleagues are attended to in ways that nurture their success and well-being. I would act similarly as a trustee of the Albany Public Library. Libraries, of course, exist to serve the community, and so the best interests of the library are this balancing act between the needs and the wants of the citizens of that city, but also knowing that the staff need to be well supported and cared for, and that the resources are used efficiently and effectively and in the ways that they're supposed to be used. I am someone who carefully looks at every situation and weighs all facets of that situation, and I've gotten really good at balancing acts. I've spent a lot of time over the past 6 months balancing the needs of students and the needs of my faculty colleagues in an institution that has been very constrained and distressed. Similarly, I will exercise duty of care as a trustee of the library by carefully reading all the documentation, being prepared for board meetings, listening to fellow trustees, to the executive director, Andrea, the staff, who is amazing, and community members, in order to make sure that I have all of the information that I need to weigh carefully and thoughtfully and make the most informed choices that advocate for and support our library. Thank you.
I am Dan Platt, 36 years old, and I've lived behind this building my entire life.
My name.
Are you really that much taller than all of the candidates before you?
Apparently, yes.
Oh, wow.
They had 2 cameras, by the way. This is the overhead one.
Oh.
So showing my freaking, like, it's not I don't feel like I have a bald spot, but I mean, do you see how I hate this angle of me. Because it does make me look taller. And I'm like, and then me, and it also happened to Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're like the tall guys get cut off, but we're just almost 6 feet.
Yeah.
And we're not that tall. But and you notice the little lady is like
little old lady's peeking up over the top
over
of the laptop there, yeah.
Yeah. So but it seems like they changed angles. For some reason.
Alright. Let's see how it goes.
My vision of how I would carry out the duties of a board member relies on my knowledge and participation with a diverse set of workplaces and groups where I learn to recognize and address problems with honest dialogue between recognized equals. Meaning, to be a leader, you need to help other people be leaders. I've held various kinds of jobs where I've worked in teams on individual projects. I've worked with former homeless, so I'm informed and experienced with that section of people. I've been a home care aide. I've worked straight minimum wage retail and other gig work. But the last few years, I've been in a support role in state civil service, doing light finance reporting, organizing information, office management, and other supportive duties where I put in a full effort. I do so because I'm able to. That is what being good faith means to me. To do the best to one's ability, to do right by those around you. I'm providing this resume of sorts to relate that skill, care, and diligence are in fact a part of my general character. Only bleeding heart, but I actually think of myself as a realist, because these things are necessary. This leads me to the other half of my resume, made up of a diverse set of community projects and efforts I've been a part of. Urban farming, serving community meals, restorative justice, thrift and reuse stores, housing issues, political lobbying, community radio station 107.3 FM has been my latest effort. Throughout this journey, I've studied group decision-making, facilitation to personally work better in groups, and to make groups work better. My original background is architecture and history, making me knowledgeable about sustainable design and giving me an understanding about how integrated and interdependent everything around us is. This means I believe that the future will be better because people like us continue to seek happiness for ourselves and, of course, all of us around us. Thank you very much.
Nice. Yeah, you got a lot of
Any
good
notes?
stuff out there. Yeah, let's see. Only pieces of constructive criticism would be, I know you don't have a lot of time, but it seemed a bit rushed.
Yeah.
But like you
It was
got a
all
lot of good
about, like,
information out at the same time.
getting as much
Like-
as possible in 2 minutes.
Right.
And I timed myself reading it at work to make sure I was under 2 minutes, but just at 2 minutes. So
yeah,
that's the rush. But I'll make a TikTok, I think, or shoot a video while I do it, take my time.
Yeah, but good information and important, relevant stuff. Like, I'd be excited at a candidate who mentioned the sort of things that you did. So overall, good. Yeah, definitely.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here in person, streaming live. I think we're up here now, and watching this recording. I appreciate you choosing to care and be informed about this election. Now, duty of care. As an elected trustee of our incredible Albany Public Library system, I envision myself carrying out my duty of care by first prioritizing my responsibility to the board. Currently, I'm involved in several organizations serving our community. Were I elected, certain commitments of mine will need to fall away so I may properly devote myself to the role of trustee, a sacrifice I would gladly make in service to the library. Second, I plan to show up to each board meeting prepared to be there. I will read any materials given prior to the meeting so that I may voice educated opinions, ask well-informed questions, and generally stay respectful of all board members. Along with this, if I need additional information or insight to fully understand an issue that seems to be troubling me personally, I will make time to meet with the appropriate people outside of the monthly board meeting. Lastly, part of acting in good faith is about trust. The board and the library's executive director are asked to work in collaboration, and the executive director oversees the daily operations of the library system. If this collaborative relationship between the board and the executive director is built on trust, the strength of our library will be unparalleled. Through my volunteering with the Friends and Foundation and generally being an active library patron, I have an existing connection with our director upon which further trust and understanding can be built. I show up wholeheartedly to my commitments, and I decided to run knowing that if elected, I would do what it takes to fully take on this role and to serve my community. Thank you all so much.
I mean, she seems friendly, but other than that, I didn't get a lot from her.
That she already has relationships with the director, apparently, or something like that. And
to me, it just kind of seems like, hey, you're
Yeah.
my best friend. You should run for the board.
That's what it. Now she didn't say what her job is. She's with Discover Albany,
Oh, what's that?
which
It's like
I consider to be
tourist?
the county's tourism arm.
Oh, okay.
But when I described it as that, like, oh yeah, the county's tourism arm, and she goes like, no, it's not government. It's not government. We're funded by the county, but we are separate, non-political org,
So
or
it's like
non-governmental.
Chamber of
I'm
Commerce,
like,
but for tourism sort of thing, or
right.
Okay.
It's like, well, fine, you're splitting hairs about the legal definition of Discover Albany, but I'm just describing the function of it, which is it's the county level tourism, promotion of the area. But it's their job to kind of clarify that, I guess. But what kind of bothers me about her spiel was the whole saying I'm already on several things, and if I win this, then I'll give some of them up. Then I'll switch over because this is obviously better, more important, more prestigious, maybe.
I mean, that's
the sense I get from that kind of logic, because otherwise it's like, well, it's a matter of doing your best for the most people, then you would just drop 2 of those 7 things, or you would just like, well, are those 7 things still going, or do they not need you anymore? Is it stable so it's not like you can move on to another thing, like, or why not make this number 8 like Paul would do?
Right. Yeah, it just makes
so
me
she's
think
the one who
that
speaks of this, because she's in that third category of person who collects board positions or positions in organizations. Now, of course, I could say, well, I'm in 3 technically of memberships anyway, but I'm not governing all 3. No way.
Right.
And I'm over time, I've taken to the whole just do one thing well. If I'm going to do community radio, then I'm just, or if I'm involved with running it, I'm just going to focus on that and expanding everything that station can do, and not try to split my time with doing that and Green Party. I only threw in to do more Green Party work because I dropped the station. And that's the thinking I go through, where I'm stepping up to run for library trustee only because I have no other major project. And technically, I see this as integrated with Green Party building, because seeing a radical socialist in some kind of governing capacity and learning how to govern, because, hey, if I'm going to be part of a political party that wants to take state power, even if it's through dual power means, we still need to learn how to govern. There's nothing like the main concern that people might have about, like, they could agree with the socialist platform all the way, but if it's people who have never been in any kind of governing position before, there's going to be a lot of flashes of all the propaganda about how revolutionaries don't know what they're doing, they make a mess of things, and they end up killing, people they don't like to cover their incompetence.
Sure.
That's the media that we've been spoon-fed, but it sort of based on life a little bit. But
yeah, there's definitely some truth to it.
But the people we admire, or at least the people who got the job done, they were governing in a way, but they were governing within unions. They're dual power government. So, but these are in contexts that are not as developed as ours. These are their contexts. There was no civil society of much. There certainly weren't public library systems. And ours is good. It's like there's 8 branches. It's very large for the size of city that we are. And because it's basically every 2 neighborhoods has one library. So it's very well distributed as well. That's what's great about them. You're never too far away from one. But otherwise.
That's not bad. But yeah, back to talking about the last candidate. It just seems to me that she's just going to take the best thing that comes along. So what's to say that she finds some other board that she wants to, be a part of, and she just drops the library board? because of that. So
there is something of a pattern of using this as a stepping stone to another.
is there? Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a direct correlation, but like the sleazy Democrat I worked for was on the library board at one point, and he actually told me it was like a great way to get started, build clout, get experience. Like, because once you've done this, you've now been in charge of a $7 million budget,
Sure.
and that puts you into qualified territory for the city council or something. Though it didn't help him too much. Because if you're not using these positions to build up your base of support, then it's just resume padding. And, well, running for office isn't actually a job interview. Maybe to Republicans or business types who see everything in terms of running a business. But that's not the case if you're a lefty or even a progressive. Kind of want to be the opposite.
Yeah, that is true. All right, let's see what this guy has to say.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Schneider. I'm honored to be here among so many people who are passionate like I am about libraries.
I figured out they have to use the under.
In thinking about this
this
question, I think this is a great question. Naturally, when I thought about this question, I thought about my own experiences and how
shows you don't know what to say.
You know, how I could relate to this question of duty of care. I'm originally from Idaho, but after graduating law school, I moved to New York. I first moved to Elmira, New York. Worked as an attorney there, a legal aid. I know, you know, boring, another lawyer, but
I've heard of Elmira. I have no real.
It's southern tier. It's the southern. It's the portion of New York that's around Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So it's far from any of our major population centers.
Gotcha.
I think I can offer some different perspective as well. You know, so thinking about duty of care, my thought as a lawyer naturally went to you know, zealously advocating for my clients. That's like a thing we learn in law school. As a baby lawyer in Elmira, New York, that's all I had, right, was zealous advocate. I was like, I'm going to represent these clients and make them so proud of me, you know. And so I can say that at the time, what I was doing at the time was housing law. I didn't know a lot about it at the time, but over time representing clients, you do your best to go in prepared and to earn the trust of your clients to represent them in court. And you know, that certainly takes a lot of gumption, which maybe was all I had, but that was enough. By the time I left that position, landlords would come up to me in court and say, I sure hope you're not here for one of my tenants. And that felt great. You know, I was like, yes, I really want them to be worried. And then the other half is,
so I guess he's letting on that he is in housing court and he does represent tenants.
Yeah, that's
not
cool.
Landlords. So, but he didn't say that correctly. I don't know why
he didn't say that directly,
say,
but
like,
he definitely.
I help out with United Tenants, or I do tenant defense. But
yeah, so far I get the feeling he didn't do much preparation for this.
Well, whenever you start, it's a trick. If you ever start or see someone start by an answer with, well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Or they repeat part of the question, which is a standard debate thing, right?
Yeah.
It means you're stalling.
It's time to
fill time, or you need another 10 seconds or 5 seconds to think of what you're gonna say.
But like, yeah, why didn't he have anything prepared going in anyway? Like everyone else seems to have had prepared.
It doesn't seem like a lawyer thing to do,
right? And especially if we're talking about how you got to be super prepared, even if you don't know.
Well, some of them had index cards. I obviously had a full little script.
Yeah.
To read.
Yeah. I don't know. Not super impressed with this guy yet.
My positions, I work for the state of New York, and so you kind of have two different perspectives on representing clients, whether you're representing an individual in court or representing something more like an institution or the residents of a state.
That
and so I think those two different hats that you can wear, where the end goal is that you are striving to do your best to represent whoever it is that you're charged with representing, whether that's an individual or an institution, and that is how I intend to represent
You said that already.
the library as a member of the board. Thank you.
That was confusing. How is he going to represent the library board? Like they're a client? Like,
Yeah, because
okay.
you're responsible when you're representing somebody.
I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely the odd one because
little garbled.
you read why he's doing this.
What? Yeah, I don't know why.
Like
he's
who's
doing
putting
this.
him up to this?
Right?
So many questions, both silly and what do you call it? Jumping the gun.
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea that maybe he was at a cocktail party and he met someone from the board or someone that was like, hey, we need more people like us represented on the library board. You got to get in there. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll do that. Sure. And then just shows up and wings it.
This is the real conspiracy out there
Yeah,
in the world.
yeah.
You know, these little like small mini plans that are just not real plans, but just like, well, wouldn't it be nice if
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool? Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's see.
Okay,
This
now
lady
for
has-
real, we're going to move into the second question. The second question, which the candidates will be answering, but in a different candidate order, if you remember, is knowing the important role that our library plays in the community. What makes you the best candidate to serve the people of Albany on the library board?
Thank you.
That is not a good question because they're just going to repeat the same stuff that they just said. At least that's how I would.
Well, the questions are thus, that as I understand them and wrote my answers to. How will you be a board member and why you? Right. So there's a how
so far,
question.
Everyone has talked about why their experience was
why
important, but I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see how it actually goes.
Well, it's a way of basically dividing people's 4-minute answers into two. But
Okay.
it's also general
fair.
enough that you can answer it in different ways. Because I chose to not repeat, like, yeah, I actually kind of switched it up, where in explaining how I'd tackle the duties, I basically gave my resume and talked about myself and gave the, why me, I suppose. Though I also kind of repeat it in a different way, but then I also include my platform, as in why me, because I have a platform. And no one else on this stage, I didn't say that, of course, I didn't know it ahead of time, but I could probably say now, I'm the only person with a platform.
Yeah.
I think there's one other person who kind of comes close because they mentioned some things.
Yep.
But not like well thought out.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that had a couple of planks, but yeah, an entire platform seems to be lacking. All right, let's see what Mr. Hipster Lawyer.
Not that you need a whole platform because it's not like you're going to be like, utterly transforming everything when you're one of 9.
But still, it's important to know what you're going to be
right.
for. Yeah.
But I do want to pursue something.
Right, exactly.
Pet project, that's it.
For sure.
What makes me the best candidate for the job? I'll say passion and experience. And I'll start with the experience first. So in 2001, I concluded a 13-year tenure on Shriners Children's, it's a Board of Governors. It's a children's hospital that's based in Springfield, New York. It serves eastern New York and western Massachusetts.
Fast, but he meant the Shriners.
During that time.
What's that?
You said it a little fast, but he meant the Shriners Hospital.
Shriners, yeah, that's what I thought I caught. Yeah, okay.
I served on committees stemming from HR, plant facilities, budget and finance. And the last 6 years, I actually was elected to a leadership position where I served as secretary of the executive committee and secretary of the board. In my role on this board, I helped strategic planning. We approved budgets upwards of $20 million on a yearly basis, so very familiar with big numbers and going through that and working with financial staff in developing that budget.
You should be running for council. Running for this board is a step down from that. So there's a part of me that's like, you should always be looking up. The whole, if you're going from board to board, as part of a career change, or just every 10 years you change up what your big project is. I get it. I love it. I support it. That's what I do. But it should always be a little bigger than the last thing you did, or unless the last thing you did was a failure. I assume this wasn't. But the library system is probably as big as a hospital, as far as employees and scope. So it's like, leave some room for some entry level governance here. You know, like this is the bottom tier board that's electable in the city. This should be the place for the amateurs. Don't come in here with your long resume of service, right? That's something that should be put to the test in a council race.
Yeah.
Or the school board. Though a lot of school board members actually don't have, they don't come in with a lot of prior experience. Depending on what you think is experience, of course. But
sure.
In my friend's case, he was on the board of the, let's see, it's called the, what is it called? The community, I'll just shorten it to community partnership. And they basically do a lot of after-school programs and other such community programming. And he was actually still on the board of that while on the library board, school board, but he was basically being a seat filler. And it's also one of those orgs where they're desperate for people. They don't have a lot of people stepping up. But again, it's like, these are volunteer positions. There's no guarantee there's any real perks to it, except you're doing, a good job. And being on this board allowed him to be nominated or appointed to the school board to fill in a gap, in the same way that the other woman was, by being on one like a level of board smaller than something that's actually like municipal. You step up, and maybe that's the only thing I'm missing, like to really counter being imposter syndrome, is that I've not been on any particular board governing an organization, unless you count our literal like little committee for Green Party work, but I don't count that because we haven't had a real budget. We haven't really done a successful long-term project. Sure. But at the same time, it's like, well, I guess there are literally 12 orgs I could probably think of where I could probably just jump in and be a board member, not too many questions asked. I just need to be involved. But the thing is, none of those orgs would be what I think is needed to carry forward a socialist vision of the city. So it's like, I don't want to put in my time, I guess, to prove I can be on a board and work with others. But truly, I haven't done that yet, and you need that demonstration. And if you want socialists in the public eye to be trusted representatives of public will,
yeah,
beyond just a demagogue of well, he's got some good points, but I'm not going to vote for him to run anything. That's the sort of tone we're up that's out there. And it's also what paralyzes a lot of the online left, is that they will just not do any of that, and they never will, so they're never prepared to do anything in particular.
Right. It's all just abstract in theory. It's not actual practice. Yeah. All right.
I'm also an attorney, as I mentioned, so I'm an attorney / lobbyist. So in that role, I constantly am collaborating with individuals to try to advance legislative regulatory goals. Right, so it's advocacy. I can't do it myself. I have to work with other people. That's part of the gig. So going into that is policy development. It goes into compliance. I come with an analytical kind of thought process, deliberate, and again, collaborative. On the passion side, probably my love of the library stems till, 1989, when I realized I could borrow Batman more than once. I then proceeded to borrow it an embarrassing amount of times, and I've been in love ever since. I truly believe in the transformative power of libraries. I think it's the Swiss Army knife of kind of community services, right? It's more than just a repository of information. It's a safeguard for freedoms of speech, association, expression. It's also a gateway to the American dream, right? You can access language services, skill development. It's gathering of like-minded individuals. I can read comic books with other people at the library. So I just think it's this fantastic community service organization that we need to support. Yeah. So that's my time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Part two. The central reason I've stepped up this time, I've been an Albany resident and politically active my whole life, well, not my whole life, the last 12 years. But the reason why I've stepped up now is because I personally feel ready. More directly, related to the time I spent as treasurer for my union local to learn the ropes of budgeting. I've also, over the years, built up a better grasp of the issues in play from years of observing and studying our local civil society. It is also a time of problems which I believe libraries have a role in addressing. So perhaps maybe you, the public, are also ready for a platform like mine, which is about intensifying the relationships and programming that makes our libraries a third place and hub of all types of culture. It consists of 1, starting a library of things that loans out goods and reduces wasteful purchasing and increases the opportunities of working people. 2, to provide a host of complementary services like low-intensity healthcare, employment, and housing placement. By bringing in partners to have a more consistent presence, would probably remove the strain of our librarians of also being social workers. 3, building on the news survey done last year, set up a local news service. Whatever form it takes is open for debate, but we live in a news desert. And because of that, it harms us in so many ways. And it needs to be addressed. These points speak to what makes me best for this role, my motivation. This form represents why I am here. We are standing for election, making this body more democratic than others. APL is supported by tax levies, so we are held more accountable to the mass people than other places. Because library workers are employees, they have more rights and more compensation than in other places. I see APL as a site for the ideas I've mentioned, because it is here that the social relationship is better for them. A culture of access and DEI. Back in architecture school, we would talk about this vision of empowerment of all people as the future of the library back in 2010. As your trustee, I hope to continue that reality and put more of it into practice. Thank you very much.
That was a great response. Yeah, you can tell that you're loosening up a little bit. You're getting a little more comfortable in front of everybody. You did slow down a little bit, although again, you're getting a lot of information out in a very limited amount of time. Yeah, more eye contact this time. It was good, and you had some concrete.
Though the eye contact caused me to lose my place when I
know,
flipped
yeah.
the page, so I had to oh shit.
Yeah, maybe if you did more like bullet points or
Yeah, no,
like
yeah. I
that.
mean, if I had another hour to edit my
Sure,
speech, then I suppose I would have done something like that. I think I was trying to fit it all on one side of the page.
Yeah.
But that meant making the font too
Sure.
small.
But that was good, and that was a lot more of a concrete response than anyone else has said so far. Like you actually listed projects that you want to see accomplished, not just vague.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know.
Though,
what other people have
if
said.
it's a choice between, this is just my observation from previous times, if it's a experienced board member who's older or a retired state worker versus a young person with ideas, the young person with ideas doesn't win. Though I'm not as young as some of those other younger candidates that were 20-somethings. I'm a 30-something now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I put it. I start with the whole I'm ready. If this was 8 years ago, I would not have that's why I haven't stepped up, even though I was probably just as motivated as I am now. Because motivation and being nice isn't enough. I wanted certain skills first. And I also knew I kind of needed them if I was going to stand a chance.
Yeah.
To make that argument to people.
Yeah.
That I am qualified.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, it does seem like if the candidate is going to be young, they also have to be an entrepreneur in order for the public to be like, oh, well, they've accomplished something with their young life, so I can trust them with this power and stuff like that.
Or they have to be working directly under someone who is accomplishing things.
Yeah.
So, I'm the deputy of a congressman, or I've worked in the office in the legislative building.
Yeah.
These are the people who are under 30. In fact, there's a New York State level magazine called, it's just City and State, it's called. I don't know if they're called something different now, but they used to be called City and State. And they had their 30 under 30. And these are the up and coming, go-getter, basically assistants at that point, but some of them were the leaders of some nonprofit or lobbying group. So they were having some kind of minor impact in the last year's proceedings on the state level government. But City and State was an interesting mag because New York City is just as important as the state government. I mean, they're almost the same size as far as budget and whatever. So, or they're so integrated in their importance that you'd kind of need a magazine that covers both the political news of New York City and New York State together. So there's a very good kind of magazine, and they would be littered, or you could get them for free around the Capitol, my neighborhood.
Sure.
So I'd read it for a bit, back in 2012 to 2014, I think, and then they just crapped out, I think. Like so many print things, they went out, or they just went online, or they just stopped putting out their free version.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what Daniel.
Back to the Idaho lawyer.
The Idaho lawyer. Yeah.
So I think a central theme that has been going around in what people.
Just makes me think of all that trope of, I'm just a small town lawyer. I don't know much about your big city ways, but I come here with my salt of the earth ideas, and I think I can make a difference.
Well, he's from Idaho, but he went from law school right to Elmira, which I guess is just it's a place to get started. If a firm is going to hire someone straight out of law school, it's got to be someplace in a small town.
Sure.
So.
People have been saying so far is passion and a dedication to values. I think those are what are most important, I think, for those of us who seek to be members of the board.
Do they apply to you?
Do they what?
That's the great thing about the way he's phrasing it. It's like, these are great, important values. Do they apply to you? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Who knows?
I think the values that we seek to bring to the board are that inclusivity and that openness to all. I think that's one of the great things about libraries, and I feel like
anybody
libraries
can
in general,
say that. Everybody has said it.
Yeah.
It's like, say something different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just picking on him.
No, but it does seem like he's just.
You can pick on me, my performance being rushed and all that.
No. Just
Or I just toot my own horn.
These are minor things.
Time will tell. I have to.
The last
I have to win. Otherwise, my performance is meaningless.
Through public spaces, public institutions. It's up there with national parks, PBS, libraries, right? Like these are the things where you're not expected to buy something. You're not expected to engage in commerce or have a reason to even be there. You can just be there. And I think that's one of the great things about libraries.
He's just describing what I meant when I said the social relations are the right.
Right, but the question is, why are you the best candidate for the job? And he's talking on about why PBS and libraries are cool. Like, what's that got to do? Yeah. What's that got to do with him? As
it's not even saying he embodies them,
right?
But
talking about
we,
how cool.
The lift of saying me and the rest of us here all believe this.
But how does that differentiate
it is a
you as a candidate?
Kind of answer. He's definitely not trying. It's weird.
One of the values that I hope to bring to the library as well is that passion for maintaining this institution as part of the community. I think, as was mentioned, a third place. I think that's an important thing that we really need to maintain for those who come after us, because I think many of us, it sounds like we're raised to really value the library. I know for me, growing up in Idaho, there really was just one library location for like the entire county, and Idaho is a very big state, so it was a long way to go to the library, and so it always felt like such a treat for me to go there. And now being a resident of Albany, I think it's amazing that we have, even in Albany, so many different branches of the library, and I think that those are some of the things that are truly valuable about Albany specifically, and the Albany Public.
Does he even go to the library? Doesn't I'm
Did
not
he
getting
say
it.
that it's unique that they have branches of the library? What did he say was unique about it? I didn't even.
We have a lot of branches.
A lot of
That
branches. That's so unique.
Well, it is. We have way more than I mean, all the suburbs basically around us just have one.
Yeah.
I mean, the building is particularly larger than ours, but it's just one.
I guess so.
So,
I don't know.
they're town libraries. Because the town has the same population of Albany, but they just have one library. It's the town. So, but we're a city library system.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it was an expansion that was started in the 90s and finished in the aughts.
Sure.
And it was definitely one of the few times the city ever actually built new things. Not a lot of that happened in the 20th century. But what it did, it was infrastructure that involved tearing down other things.
Making way for cars.
Renewal. Mostly for cars, yes.
All right.
Speaking of the parking crater and removing highways, in the parking crater downtown, there's been a new proposal by Buell, who's like the local regional real estate kingpin of sorts. And he is coordinating all the players to get a soccer team and build an 8,000 person soccer stadium in the parking crater with 2 bookend office, hotel, entertainment complex kind of buildings on either side of them. But a question raised with this proposal and the rendering of it is, where's the bus station? There's supposed to be a new bus station in the next few years, and it's not in your rendering. Where is it? and literally, so the columnist asked, and he asked like the CTA, our local bus system, who is now going to be part owner of the new bus station, and they'll be actually part of it. And unlike now, where it's just a Greyhound building, and Greyhound has they're a terrible company.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
So everyone wants this building gone, even though I feel like it could be, salvageable with the right amount of architecture, vision. But anyway, the damage is done, I guess. And let's see. Yeah, and basically, it was very disheartening because you have on the CTA side, we'll make it work. We'll have a waiting area if we have to make it like that, and we'll have the maintenance off-site. And I'm like, so you're acquiescing that for the sake of this development, we'll tuck the bus station underneath it, and treat bus passengers like the little rats they are, scurrying in and out and under, because that's how we're being treated with that kind of scheme. And yeah, or worse, or we wait until the big highway interchange is down, and then there'll be plenty of new space the bus station could go in. But anyway, the pseudo government development arm, Capitalize Albany, is now the new owner of the bus station, or at least they will be, and thus, they can partner easily, being semi-government, with the county to get the price tag of $30 million, the bus station, but also transit hub, which they mean there'll be park and ride, and bike rentals, and an actual seating area.
Oh, that's it?
But the thing about a bus station, though, which people are the casual observer isn't getting, is that a bus station needs to be more than just a seating area. It needs to be a place that can operate at all hours, because buses are coming in late. So it needs to be like when people come in, there should be the things that people need that they're not going to be able to get downtown at 10 p.m.
Yeah, convenience
You know,
store,
and we need more than a
cafe.
goddamn vending machine.
Yeah.
You know, there needs to be an actual cafe
Yeah, yeah.
that like similar to the train station. Although
Absolutely,
the
it should
train
be.
station has a shops in it,
Yeah.
which are probably not open super late, but I don't. Well, yeah, you know, I'm not making the best case because, but it has those things there at all hours. Um, anyway,
Right. No, you're definitely right about that. Yeah, St. Paul has a beautiful um, transit station that they restored. Um, you know, herringbone tiles in the ceiling, just grand vaulted ceilings everywhere. It's really, really beautiful, and they did a great job. But they can't seem to keep any restaurant or cafe going inside there. So it basically is just an empty transit hub over the night, and there's just not.
it's
much
just not going to
going
be
on.
profitable, I assume. And so, like, if it's
Yeah,
is it
there's
a
just not
public
enough
transit
people
station?
coming through to, I guess,
Yeah.
to sustain
I can assume that.
something big.
But that's where like it needs to be more of like just a snack cart or a food truck kind of
Sure.
operation.
Yeah.
But even then, there will be profit margins that need to be maintained. Like there was the caterer at the for the cafeteria in my last office building, and I would think they were doing lots of business, but not in the summertime. So, and not enough in the summertime because there are other food trucks and stuff. So they were only being profitable in the wintertime when people were stuck in the building or didn't want to leave it. And it sucked because like their quality would waver, and it was just fried food pretty much, and some made salads, but like they were really basic salads. But you got a lot, maybe too much. Anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Get on.
And I think that dedication to maintaining that and improving it for the future are what I would bring as a member of the board. Thank you.
Hi again. So, like all of my fellow candidates, I feel passionately about libraries. My father joked that I should have brought the homemade library card that I issued to my brother 40 years ago when I was just a young child, organizing and reorganizing all the books in my bedroom for my library patrons, otherwise known as my family members. I
You ever know
intend to bring
anyone
that
who did
kind of
that?
passion.
Played library, like played librarian.
I'm pretty sure I did that when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah, because I can imagine, like, I maybe remember I may have done that at one point, but it would have been short-lived.
Yeah, no, I would have been really
Or
young.
maybe I'm confusing with a memory of simply using our classroom library,
That could
where
be
we're
too.
allowed to like take one of them home. So,
I seem
so
to
it
remember,
felt like
Yeah, I seem to remember like making my own library cards for books we just had around the house and stuff like that.
But that's like
seems
when a
good.
kid is deprived of a library, you know? Like they don't need to
Oh,
do
I
that.
went to the
if-
library
if-
plenty. Like I just also thought
Okay.
it would be fun to work there. I guess I don't know. I
I,
was a little
maybe
kid.
it could be cut. Look, as I said in my first answer, I live behind a library, so I never had to play or pretend or
Yeah, I grew up just 2
feel like
blocks
I
from the
need to.
library. Yeah.
I just go next. I just would go there, and somewhere in the TU archive there is a picture of me with a book at age 4 or something, and I didn't put in the effort to go find it for this race.
You
'cause
should
I didn't
though.
think it was-
That's a good story that people can relate to. It's like, look,
Yeah, I guess so.
even before I knew what libraries were, I was down for it.
Before I was, at 5, I was 5 or 6,
Right.
first grader. Yeah. Well, it's weird because it was in a newspaper clipping that I thought like we had in a frame, but that was when I was a kid, and after adolescence, it disappeared. I don't know where it went. Might have been thrown out. Can't imagine that though. Anyway, yeah.
As a trustee for the Albany Public Library. But additionally, I tend to be a bridge builder, a connector. I'm the kind of person who can sit in a meeting and listen to all different kinds of views and find the patterns and the commonalities and the overlaps amongst them and present a creative plan for how some of these ideas could possibly fit together. Additionally, I want to
Oh,
listen
wait.
to the
Okay, pause.
community and
Note for doing any kind of job interview or whatever is do what she just did, where you kind of list out the skills you have, but then follow it immediately with an example
Yeah.
of a time that happened. Because
Yeah,
otherwise
that's
you're
pretty
just
good.
talking out your butt,
Right.
in my mind.
In the
If you
abstract,
don't
like that letter
follow up
ghost.
immediately with, I have an example of this time that I came up with a solution after hearing everybody in the room.
Yeah. That's good.
Otherwise, it's like, and this happened when,
Yeah.
take your word for it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you have to take the word for it if they even give an example, of course. But it's at least makes
At least
it.
they got
If you
something.
gotta state something abstract, then you should follow it with something concrete.
Yeah.
And if you say something concrete about like I did this and this, you follow it with an abstract idea like because of this
Yeah,
general
'cause I believe
value
in this, yeah.
principle.
Yeah. Good points.
their ideas. I've already started doing that during the petitioning process. Everybody wanted to talk about their ideas for the library. Things like continuing to improve hours, increasing accessibility, creating consistency for registering for events, book sales, improved interlibrary loan notifications. And so I would be attentive to these ideas while also being attentive to the challenges faced by the staff and the resources.
So it sounds like she actually has some ideas of what she wants to do as a board member, but like
That's a platform there.
it is a
of sorts.
platform. It just I don't know. I'm not super excited by the things she said. Like
Yeah.
I'm not really hearing.
There's sort of
anything new
things
or
that the
different.
library's already done. Like
Right,
we
it kinda seems
done
like
book
this is
sales.
already stuff.
Like
Yeah,
we used to
book
have a
sales.
whole book shop.
Oh, okay.
Not anymore, but it's been replaced with the rent-a-bike storage.
Oh, okay.
More or less. Downstairs. Or no, it was also replaced with the public access TV station in the basement of the building we're in. That's where the bookshop used to be. So
I see.
better use actually. Yeah, it's not an exciting list of things, but like because they're
But it's
small,
something, though.
they're the
It's
doable
concrete.
things, they're the things that are going to happen
Yeah.
regardless. And the whole like expanding hours is constant. And
I mean,
I did
everyone's gonna say
watch one
that.
of
Yeah.
the one of yeah, and it's the only thing that came up to when people expressed their ideas for the library when I was petitioning was simply actually barely even that. I think I was mentioning it more as a platform plank, like yeah, and bring back COVID hours or pre-COVID hours. It wasn't 12 hours a day, but it felt like it sometimes.
Sure.
Or at least it was 8 hours. Or yeah, 8. Like it would go 9 to 8. And that would be perfect, I suppose. But it seems the impediment is not enough staff, and I'm not sure if it's because of lack of budget or lack of good hiring or too much turnover. That's something that I'm sure if I watch a few more trustee meetings, as I was watching one, it came up. So everyone acknowledges like a 12/7 would be ideal. But rather they can't overstretch the staff they have.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have enough staff to kind of have all the library branches open for the whole weekend. We concentrate on Saturday because that's the day most families can come to the program. And the programming is where they get the most attendance beyond the regulars, I guess. So, which is one of those missions is to engage as many as possible. So it goes to polls about what people want programming wise, what they would put the library for, and fulfilling that as much as possible. So that's sort of a machine that's moving. Now I'm more for like the projects for things that people didn't know they wanted, but once they're going to be like, I can't live without this now.
Yeah, that's a lot more exciting to me.
Which is the library of things in a nutshell. I can't tell you like, oh, I need to know someone who with a sewing machine I can borrow from, or a car even for car shares. But that's through the transit network, not the library. But my older activist friend, said that the news service idea is a good one. So I like that.
Yeah, that's definitely one I hadn't heard before.
People
That's
acknowledge that one.
interesting.
That would be a brand spanking new concept.
Yeah.
That no one's ever. I don't think. I mean, it was even a surprise to me when I read about it. So I'm just like super excited to talk about that with everyone, because that could be like that could go a few ways. What the kind of news service it would be. I mean, the ideal is that it's a full staff of like journalists who are basically journalists for hire. People come to the library and or the email with a tip or an issue they want explored or something they want to know about, and then the journalist that's their mission. Whether it takes them a day or a week, that's their job.
That's
and
cool.
To hire some of those many unemployed journalists, or just constantly partner with the School of Journalism that I think exists at SUNY Albany,
That sounds
and
cool.
and get a rotating set of interns, I suppose. But really, we wanted a full news service on par with some community newsletter at least, so we could start with some kind of community newsletter. But that's like a full newspaper kind of thing, like with an actual like something to compete with the Hearst rag, because like they barely even have an Albany desk, and there's so much that's not covered, and a lot of us are going to the Business Review to know what's going on.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
Well, I mean, it's everywhere, unless you're in a
Yeah,
metro
of course it's
area.
everywhere, but like
Unless you're in a metro area.
You got a, city of what, 100,000, something like that.
Yeah.
And like a metro area of how much? Probably a few 100,000 more.
Well, the whole metro area is 1 million.
Okay.
If you count like
You'd think that'd be enough to sustain a paper.
Three, four counties. But that's the Times Union. The Times Union is our regional paper.
But it's a regional paper.
And they devote maybe half a page a day to Albany, if even. I mean, it has to be very particular stories. It's not going to be what's happening in your hood. It's not going to be a list of all the community events. It's not going to be, an investigation into a question.
Yeah.
That
seems kind of
is
important.
just not. So many questions and so many issues go unaddressed without any consideration, and it's up to like personal conversations, but then there's no collective conversation happening unless it's around something the mayor's doing, but then most people are informed about it, even though maybe that's the only thing that the Times Union will cover. But a lot of people do not like the Times Union and how they cover things, particularly it's a corporate newspaper and they have a slant and they have things they won't touch, or things that they will talk about. It's how to describe it, and there's also sloppiness because they just keep cutting the number of people that are in the newsroom. So anyway, we're getting ahead of down the rabbit hole, but based on the platform that I have.
Sources available to the library. I believe I am well suited to find creative ways to work with all of these ideas from many different constituents and stakeholders, and I hope to have that opportunity. Thank you.
This particular question has caused a lot of self-reflection because it's kind of a hard question to ask yourself. Why am I the best candidate? But I think I'm the best candidate for two reasons. Although they're reasons that are kind of in common with all of us. First of all, I have a passion and a deep love for libraries, for books, for the billions of stories out there. I believe that wandering the stacks of my local library as a kid and having the freedom to explore those stories took me miles, light years, and even universes away from my very small town in Wyoming. We should talk, Wyoming and Idaho. But I believe that it also taught me empathy. Those stories, they challenged me, they scared me, they let me explore the world at my own pace. Everyone needs a library and access to a library, and I will do everything in my power as a trustee to ensure that continued access. I also have a proven track record of service to and love of my community. I have chosen to work in the nonprofit sector because I feel like it has given me the opportunity to serve my community daily. I also volunteer with my church. I annually organize our neighborhood food drive for the Regional Food Bank. I run as a St. Jude hero. I do my best to support organizations working to make our community a better place. But I've also had the opportunity the last few years to serve as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Friends and Foundation of Albany Public Library, and most recently filling a short vacancy as a trustee, and it has been the honor of my life. And I want to continue to bring that dedication to our community, that passion for what we do as a board here at the library, making this a better place to live by supporting our library, our 7 branches, and continue to support the library staff, the executive director, and my fellow trustees as we build up our great city through our library system and all the community that we have. Thank you.
I mean, my only takeaway point from her is she's got passion for libraries, and that's what everybody has said. So
she likes libraries.
Yeah, likes the libraries, likes running.
Hard to find people who don't like libraries. I'm sure the Mises Institute guys.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some really bitter capitalists.
There's some real sickos out there.
There's some real sickos out there, yeah. All right, let's see who's up next.
So, number 1, I share the library's values. I deeply believe in the library's commitment to offer accessible, quality programs that meet such varied needs and interests of all our residents and neighborhoods served. And I bring a lot of relevant experience, specifically in collaborating and partnering. In 1999, I founded a nonprofit employment program, Career Links, to serve marginalized communities. And that required a lot of partnering with both the county and private groups for funding, for training, for employment opportunities, and for support services. And then in 2018, I started a business, Your Career Fit Matters, to provide quality services for job seekers, often without resources to pay. Again, I sought out organizations and partners that enabled us to do this. And I have experience in engaging folks and learning from them. Actually, over the last couple of years, I've been doing radio interviews for the Sanctuary for Independent Media, specifically seeking out diverse voices in our community to learn what matters most to folks with very different backgrounds, very different experiences. And not only do I feel comfortable reaching out to folks from different neighborhoods, I'm enriched by it. And I would use these skills to engage with City of Albany residents and use the information gathered to guide my recommendations as a library trustee. And lastly, I too love the library and appreciate what an amazing resource it is for all of us, and would be honored to serve as a trustee for an organization that's truly about helping community members grow and thrive.
Yeah, she seems like a good person.
Yeah.
I
like the way she did, and I like her as a person since I've interacted with
cool.
her more. But yeah,
but yeah, I didn't really hear any.
She's definitely someone who can do. She means it when she can kind of go out and talk to anybody.
Sure,
she's been doing that.
Yeah, she obviously cares. She obviously has a lot of passion. But I don't see much outside of the norm in terms of ideas.
Sure, though she is outside the norm of, I guess, the rest of the panel, let's call them, in that her and me could be some of the few who've actually worked with marginal people.
Yeah.
The people who are most helped by the library. You have your set of professionals.
Yeah,
PMC
that's true.
Types. of different flavors, of course, but you may have noticed a pattern, and there'll be a few more, where it almost like they do care, and they're nice people, and they're good, and I like them. Don't want to put them down, but their manner of talking and the presentation style that they're used to is a corporate one. So they're using kind of corporate buzzwords and language and syntax and the way they explain things.
Yeah.
It's because it's not so much their fault, it's that they just haven't had any exposure or practice presenting in a different way, perhaps a more human way, or a way the way they're allowed to give specifics. Because if you're in a corporate environment, giving a corporate presentation, you kind of want to avoid, unless it's some like weird anecdote or personal story, I guess, relating to your work, you stay away from it.
Yeah,
but Marcia isn't one of those people.
Yeah, she seems like she's
been doing community projects for 30 years.
Yeah,
at least.
That's cool.
Going back to the 60s, probably.
Probably so.
And she has that energy.
Oh, what makes me the best candidate to serve the people of Albany on the library board? Well, my love for Albany runs very, very deep. Go ask anyone, anywhere who has ever met me. But so does my love for humans, just as they are. I was born and raised here, but I went away for school and work before I very intentionally returned. I have now been back for nearly 7 years. When you read my biography in the candidate materials, you will see this quote: "One must know the world so well before one can know the parish." I lived in New York City for several years. I studied in Paris. During college, I lived in a very small town in Western New York called Geneseo, and I traveled to Greece last summer. I have lived in the world outside of Albany.
I've never heard
but
of
I
Geneseo being
choose
referred
to build
to
my
as
life.
a really small town. Now, it is the kind of college town where it's literally just the SUNY campus and nothing really else.
What's the city? What did she mention?
Geneseo. It's on Lake Erie.
That's one I don't know.
Well, it's on Lake Erie, and so it's not between two things. It's just on the lake. I guess it's sort of like if you draw a diagonal from Syracuse to the lake.
Okay.
It's that route. But I get that it is a small town. It's just a college town. But you can say that about Oneonta. You can say that about Cortland. I'm naming places you and a national audience would never hear of.
Right.
But you can kind of imagine. But anyway, small detail.
Here. Knowing the world has helped me appreciate what it is that makes Albany, the parish, such a wonderful place. Growing up here, I was in a microcosm of the world. I was at School 16 with classmates of every skin tone who spoke various languages, at home with neighbors recently arrived from Bosnia and friends who celebrated Hanukkah, Eid, and Christmas, and more. Wherever
Some of her best friends are minorities.
No, she's not saying they were friends.
That's true. They were just in her general vicinity. Well,
yes, in their vicinity. Yeah. This is where you this is an example of like really trying to stretch one's connection, or trying to make a case you're woke, but you really have to stretch it. Like I grew up in an urban area. Think of all the experiences that lends me that a non-woke person will have. And yeah, her list of like her world experience. I mean, it's not a problem with her. It's just a problem with the metaphor of I'm going to start with a Bible, like a quote, and I'm trying to fit my life experience into that box of knowing the world and knowing the parish.
Right.
And like, look, visiting Paris and going to school in Geneseo, I wouldn't say makes you worldly.
Yeah.
I would need to make some stretch remarks if I were to say I'm worldly. I barely left America.
Yeah. Oh, me either.
But I will make a case I'm cosmopolitan in my values and I'm pluralist in my actions. But anyway.
Yeah. definitely.
didn't
I have
quiz her how
traveled. I
many
feel at
ethnic
home in the world
restaurants she's gone to.
because
Yeah.
I'm from Albany. My Albany life, and more acutely, my public school education, taught me to love and appreciate the richness of humanity, a love and appreciation very much thriving within me still. Our library serves this richly textured community that has wide-ranging, ever-evolving needs. As your library trustee, my love for Albany itself, paired with my love for everyone from everywhere who makes up this community, will help me lead with a level of care that will prove my friend Kyra's saying true more and more. Albany is for everyone. Thank you.
Hi again. I feel a little bit like I was designed in a lab for the library trusteeship. I have a bachelor's in English literature and then a master's in public administration, and I've spent the bulk of my career managing budgets and grants and hiring people and facilities.
I will say this.
So when I saw the
master's in public administration is like the key to opening the doors to all the middle management of civil service.
Yeah, that's true.
I think if you're going to be over grade 23 or like have any position of responsibility and actually do things, you need to have that master's of public administration.
Yeah, that's a good degree to have.
Not something I'm pursuing.
No, me either.
trustee opportunity, I thought, this is it. This is the perfect way for me to blend my vision for Albany with my professional expertise. I'm the best candidate because I see the bigger picture. After years of working in public service and managing multi-million-dollar research budgets, I can take the macro view to understand challenges and find solutions. In a time where life is more expensive than ever, I will support the library in providing free programming of all types to our community because the arts, continuing education, and life skills training should be accessible to everyone, regardless of economic status. As a weekly regional food bank volunteer, I have seen firsthand how crucial and in-demand free programming is. The library has the power to change a lot of lives. Working in public mental health, I hear the phrase, "You are not alone," time and again as we deal with the loneliness epidemic in New York. I want to work to reach people and connect them to like-minded folks who might be taking a painting class or playing Dungeons & Dragons at the library. I want to help folks reconnect to this important third place. There are a million ways the library is improving our lives here in Albany, especially in kids programming, but I think there's a group of people who can't make it to an afternoon movie showing or are too intimidated to sign up for a class where they won't know anyone. I want to figure out how to reach them and bring them into the fold of our community. The library is such an incredible resource, and I want to ensure every person capitalizes on their access to it. I think Albany will benefit as a whole from a more engaged library patronage, and whether as an advocate in the community or helping the director to draft a new hire position or suggesting grants, I'm ready to see the vision of the strategic plan through and support the library in empowering all of us here in Albany. Thank you.
So yeah, so some more actual platform planks, ideas of things to actually do. So I think that's pretty good. And then her degree is yeah, like you say, pretty relevant to what.
Yeah, I think when I'm voting, I think I'll pick Paige.
You wanna vote for yourself?
maybe well, of course, but I'm talking about the other two. Paige and maybe Brad, the bow tie guy. But maybe I need to review that because I'm hesitant to put it towards Paul, but I probably should since he's actually probably has the most radical politics or at least viewpoint. You may have noticed he's wearing a Black Lives Matter pin.
Yeah.
And that is expressed on Facebook. He will like repost or like there's a Malcolm X Day event this Sunday. I'm going to go there to petition and also to distribute my lit. Maybe I'll see him there.
Cool.
That probably clinch it. We're like, yep, let's do this together, man. But I will if I do get a moment alone, I'll probably like ask him like, how do you feel about this like need for coordination, and is you being on 8 different boards a way of handling that? Do you think that's the most democratic and efficient way? Shouldn't it be a matter of you encouraging other people from your org to be on these boards and not just kind of you? Because it's like in a negative way, a cynical way, it's like you're hogging them. Let's go share the boards, the board memberships with people. But at the same time, because of professionalism and meritocracy almost, it's like, well, the people on these boards should be people who know what they're doing. And the people who know what they're doing are the people who have already been on boards, or they're already on other boards. So it becomes a sort of contradiction of sorts, at least as far as the values of inclusion and diversity go. Because you're not getting that if it's the same 30 people everywhere. Because they're the most qualified and, experienced and whatever.
That makes sense.
Speaking of.
So I honestly, I do feel like I'm an incredible candidate for the position. I don't feel like I'm the only qualified candidate, not for nothing. Everybody here does good stuff and really cares, right? I've dedicated my life to service all around the city. When I talked to people and I told them that I was running for this position, people were like, why are you so excited about that? And I was like, no, you don't know. We can do so much. I'm very excited because as Batman, my job is the coordination of resources in order to maximize our collective impact. What does it look like when we're together? What does it look like when we share space? What does it look like when we partner on grants? What does it look like when we expand our programming and bring in other volunteers? How many more hours can we be open? What else can we do? How best can we serve the people? At the Red Bookshelf, we've given away over 70,000 books last year. We give books away for free. We run programs to engage. We believe in access, practice, and motivation. Give kids access to books, allow them time to practice, motivate them to continue doing so on their own. That's how we create strong readers. We have superhero academies where we bring in Spider-Man and anyone under the sun, of course Batman, but we bring in superheroes to talk to the kids as credible messengers. We have a program called Mind Your Business, because if you're a good reader, you can write a business plan all of a sudden. Now we can encourage entrepreneurship in our city. We can use the library and work with community partners to invest in our kids in a very real and tangible way. This is something we do on a daily basis, and I'm super excited about it. We actually partnered with the library to show the right to read and other things for families. 30 seconds, all right, I'm gonna make this quick. We actually had a program the other day. We ran a Star Wars Jedi Academy. It was so much fun. A lot of what I do, we bring fun and excitement and stuff back to the table. If you look at my profile picture and everything else, it's not like everybody else's. We're different, right? And that's fine, because that's what's welcoming for folks. That's when they see that anybody is welcome. This is a fun place to be, and they can see all that the library actually has to offer. From 3D printers to video game tournaments to museum passes, everything is incredible. My time is up, but I honestly believe that through our community connections, I work with the United Way. I was our 2023 Philanthropist of the Year last year. I was in the Albany High Hall of Fame. I work with everybody. I love everybody. We can bring everybody under these many roofs in order to expand our program and serve the people of Albany.
So,
yeah. I nothing wrong with what he said at all. I like all the things that he is thinking about. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
I do hope in another cycle, like he's, well, even this cycle next year, he should be the one running for mayor.
Yeah.
Not the 2 other black shows who are basically nothings. He's the guy doing it all, or rather, and he's got the right head. Because keep in mind, like the saying, like, write a business plan, be an entrepreneur. We can take that as a negative connotation, pejoratively, as socialists. But keep this in mind: if you're going to start a co-op with your comrades, you also need to write a business plan, and you also just think of yourselves as a group of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship can be this collective activity.
It doesn't have to lead to small
not an
business
individualist one.
Yeah.
It's the capitalist that frame it as such. Of course,
Right.
they do that with everything. We can, of course, do the opposite. Anything good that people do like and have a positive association, we can say, yeah, socialism is that too. In fact, it's better. That's the point.
All right, Tia Anderson.
Because capitalism and
I lived
entrepreneurship
directly
means
across the
50% failure.
Yep, that too.
or more.
From my local library branch. So I was there quite frequently because it was the one place, the one field trip I could go on all by myself. So I was out. One of my favorite pastimes was actually venturing out to other neighboring cities and towns and visiting their local libraries with my mom. And one thing that all these libraries had in common, whether they were big or small, huge budget or shoestring budget, they were free, they had free programming, and they were open to everyone. Libraries really shaped who I am today, and they also enriched my childhood. They've made me an avid reader and ultimately a good Samaritan. Throughout my career, I've been drawn toward roles that are people-centered and community-based. After graduating from the College of St. Rose, I got my first full-time job with the Albany Symphony. It is a nonprofit, and I gained really valuable skills there, such as donor relations, fiscal management, and event planning. Throughout my professional journey, I've really honed in on my skills in communication, organization, and attention to detail, which are all crucial qualities in a trustee board member. I am the best candidate to represent the people of Albany on the library board because I have a deep respect for our public library system. If elected, I look forward to maintaining and expanding the incredible impact that the library has had on our community. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. In my first answer, I think I outlined some of the reasons why I'm qualified for this role, whether it's previous board service or career as an educator and organizer over the last several years. So I think I have the necessary skills and temperament to serve on the board well. But one thing I appreciated about Paul's first answer is leaning into the why, right? And that's really something that I want to emphasize for this question. So my wife and I moved to Albany in 2015. We moved here for a job and weren't sure how long we would be here, but ended up really embracing the community and feeling embraced by the community, right? And we fell in love with this place. So now we own a home in Pine Hills. My wife is a teacher in Albany City Schools, and we have a young daughter who's 21 months old, and we're really excited to raise her here, right? And when you've been in the city for a while, almost a decade, you also notice the challenges that are facing folks in the city. And as a Pine Hills resident, one that's really at the top of my mind is the closure of St. Rose. So that leaves me wondering, for staff like Jennifer, what that means for her, for my neighbors, for me. And it really brings to light the importance of investing in the institutions that bring people together and that really bring out the best in us. And I think libraries are at the top of that list. And one way that I see that is every Saturday, my daughter Margot, we take her to the Pine Hills branch or to this branch, and she gets to play and run around and sing with people of different ages, of different backgrounds, right? There's not many spaces where that kind of beauty can come out and where people can come together like that. So that's a big part of the reason why I want to run and why I think that you all should vote for me is that the why, that it's really about the love for this community combined with the skills and experience that I think would make me a good board member. Thank you.
I do want to wrap us up with a shout out to the election. Everyone watching remotely here in Washington Ave, later on remotely. We've all got big decisions and...
So what do you think?
Yeah, I would say you and Paul and to a certain degree Marcia would be I think the three most standout people in terms of what they actually want to do with the position,
Marcia Lazarus or
yeah, Marcia Lazarus.
Yeah.
Seems like you all at least have plans that are more than just having another feather in your cap, or using it as a platform to higher office, as you were mentioning before. So
the Marcia, I don't think she said she had plans. It was more like, I'm going to listen and implement others' plans. So, but she would be a partner down to me, working with the other radio station. She would definitely be on board with my news service idea.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of the people, I couldn't really figure out why they were there. Like, I didn't get a good sense of what about it intrigued them so
Yeah,
much.
like
They-
Tia, for example.
Yeah.
Of course, mentioning the symphony always reminds me of how I should be going and patronizing them. It's not something I put on the side of my calendar of like go see the symphony because we have one. It's rare for a city to have its own symphony. What we do, but they don't do concerts very often. It feels like, but maybe they do, and I'm just not paying attention. It always feels like it's just something twice a year or something, And I look at the program, I'm like, I know all this music. Or they're doing something like poppy, like John Williams scores or something.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't want to go to symphony for that.
No?
I want to go listen to
Sounds fun.
Firebird or Promenade.
Sure.
Anyway.
But yeah, a lot of those
Okay.
people just kind of
Yeah.
they've just kind of amalgamated into one candidate in my mind. Like I can't really pick apart
Yeah, I know
one
that.
from another. They all got the passion for the city, all love the city. And
The
that's
last cycle, it was 7, so at least there was like.
that's
and they
astounding.
were.
I guess I've never had my eye on a library trustees board race before, but it just seems like that's a lot of people for.
It is.
That type
No,
of
it's
position.
definitely a record, I think. I mean, 12 is a lot.
That's a lot.
It is even a lot for this. Because last time there was a lot of people, it was 7. And then there was another election in between where it was just 1 or 2. And that's where I'm like, oh, damn it, that's when I should have
Yeah,
run.
right?
And now
Where's your
I
end?
chose the wrong freaking year to step up. Right? So, but we'll see. We'll see. Because if I don't win, here's what I'm going to do. At the end of the month, so I literally have just a week of lead-in time. There are some deadlines for applying to be on the community police review board,
Oh, okay.
and there's some other city level boards that are like, oh yeah, I think one of is the other one on my mind is the flag redesign committee. So that would be something I might actually be qualified / non-politically. You don't want me on the Albany Police Review Board because I'm anti-cop. I can see that being used against me. But the flag design, well, that's safe. You can put me in charge of that. I already have some ideas, but they're not fleshed out. I don't think they're good yet.
Yeah, Minnesota just got our own new state flag, just officially.
We'll be looking at that. I need to look at that.
Yeah.
Because
It's definitely
we
better
don't
than
want to
the
go.
old one.
I'm sure we don't want to go too abstract with it, but the point is to move away from the highly detailed, hard to print and concise, big seal of the city.
That's right, and that's what our old
with the
state
Indian
flag
on one
was.
side and the Dutch guy on the other.
That's like exactly what our state flag was. We had the pioneer plowing his field as the Native American runs away on horseback. That was our old state flag. But it was just
He's
the
running
state
away?
seal. Yeah. He's like jumping
yeah.
a fence and running away from the guy. And the guy's like looking over his shoulder, like, "What the heck is that?"
Yeah, there's like, she's. I mean, that's the joke from Parks and Rec where it's like, the town mural, and it's basically like a bunch of natives getting hung or something.
Right.
Or run over by a train, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, but there's a lot to do. And as the president of the Library Association, who was at the Socialist Conference, said, this is the site for socialist organizing, or at least you'd like it to be.
Cool.
I don't know exactly how you do that, but I will look for pressure points, I guess.
Up to the challenge.
Or it's just a demonstration, doing some actual sharing economy stuff.
Yeah.
So, and it's
I'd say there's
interesting.
big potential for that.
How many will say you know what, that news service, that is something the library should do, not if I was going to the city council with these ideas, they probably wouldn't be received too well because there's just no room for discussing or even pushing for public municipal businesses. But if I'm running for city council, I think that's going to be the only plank that I'm going to focus on, because everything else flows from being able to have city businesses. Otherwise, it's just trying to get the city to have with its pot of money from taxes that can shrink and grow based on the GDP of our frickin' dumbass economy. Because we saw, like, a crisis hits that only shuts things down for a few months, and tax revenues plummet. And it's like, we have to make the hard choices, but we shouldn't have to frickin' do that. If we have city businesses, they can stand on their own feet, and just break even or something, or whatever.
Right.
But that's the fear, is that they would have to be subsidized, and they would these businesses would be a drain, and my tax dollars shouldn't go to a business I won't use. I'm like, well, the point is, it actually would be something you'd use, something that we don't have in this city. And that's where we get into the back to the football field, where there's outrage because it could be subsidized, though there's no talk of that. Though it's assumed it will be subsidized, at least in the construction. But it won't be publicly, it will be a private football stadium, right? And that means that it's taking away public park space and creating private open green space. That isn't really. But having sports in the urban grid is something that our city is missing. We used to have it. I mean, there is something of a football field by American football at Bleecker Stadium, but it's not a modern stadium and it's not modern facilities at all. It really is just big concrete bleachers and football field. There isn't even a track. I keep forgetting there isn't there. But anyway, we're reaching the end of our 2 hours, and so thanks for another evening. I think I don't know. I may pass on next week, since that will be election night. Though it's not like there's too much, Well, actually, no. That I need to get on this and make a little event and have a get together.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, friends over.
Watch the returns come in. However it works for
for the school, for that ever important school budget vote. Because I mean, it can get contentious, the school budget vote. Raise the taxes too much, and you might actually have enough people vote against it. But it usually has to be some kind of big, controversial thing to vote against a budget.
Sure.
I don't know what upset people last time. There was actually a fuss, but it usually still wins 60-40 or
that's
whatever.
good.
It's usually people that are just, my taxes, I don't want to. But we have the tax cap in New York, where you can't raise the taxes more than 2%. This was to stop municipalities from continuously raising taxes to a point where 10% raise or something. But it locks in that you can pretty much only increase your budget to match inflation. And you're not really going to create new taxes or raise the tax levy enough that you could really fund new things. Though I've heard in the last meeting that we finished replacing all the lighting with LED lighting, and it's saving us like $75,000 on the electric bill for the system.
That's cool.
So maybe it was 700,000, but no, maybe it was just 75,000. But or maybe that was the size of the electric bill, but they said it was substantially less.
Yeah, I would imagine be substantial. That's cool. Well, good luck to you in the election. I hope you get your seat. You would have my vote, but I'm not allowed to.
But alas, you're in a completely different state.
Completely different state.
Well, then go vote in your local school election.
Yes, I definitely. I
have your voice.
Every local election. So. For sure.
All right. Good night.
Have a good one. All right. That is going to do it for me tonight. Thank you all for joining, as usual. Thanks to the new followers. Let's see, we have Wolf Ace and Envy Love. Okay. Thanks for the follows. Do appreciate that. Hope you liked what you saw, and I hope you join for future streams. But until next time, I will see you all on Sunday when we will do some more Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Have a good week and a good night.